preparing for this midterm, you guys, if you're struggling with the concept, watch the video. Watch the video. Okay? Okay, here we go, 5-5. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do some long division. Okay? So, see the bottom, x minus 1? We're going to put that on the outside. So everybody go x minus 1. On the inside, everybody stop for 2 seconds. Do you see how we have a 3 of an exponent? We have a 2, we have a 1, and we have a constant. We have everything we need. We're not missing anything. If there was anything that wasn't there, we would have to fill in a placeholder of a 0, okay? But we're good. So we're just going to write that down. And now I'm going to do long division, okay? What do I multiply by x to get 3x to the third? That would be 3x to the second. Now I'm going to distribute, and I get 3x to the third minus 3x to the second. Then I change my signs. First terms cancel. A negative 5 and a positive 3 is a negative 2x squared. Bring down the 3x. What do I multiply by x to get a negative 2x squared? That's a negative 2x. Distribute, and you get negative 2x to the second plus 2x. Change your signs. First terms cancel. 3x minus 2x is 1x. Bring down the 10. What do I multiply by x to get x? That would be a 1. Distribute, and I get x minus 1. Change my signs. Those cancel. I get a negative 9. Now, I don't throw out the remainder. When is it that I throw out the remainder? When we're looking for an oblique asymptote. That is not what we're doing. Read the question. Weber State used to ask this a lot. What is the remainder? And look at this. If you said negative 9, they would take off 2 out of the 3 points. It was painful. They want you to, oh, it's the other way. If you wrote it as negative 9 over x minus 1, they would take away 2 of the 3. All they want is just the negative 9. Okay, so the negative 9 is the correct answer. All they want is the remainder. Okay, now look what we're doing, guys. If you take this x minus 1 and you set that equal to 0, you get x equals 1. We're going to take that 1 and we're going to plug it into this original right there. Okay, so everybody go 3 times 1 to the third minus 5 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 minus 10. Okay, now grab your calculator. You guys, I know this. Look, you guys are smart. I know this is a 1, I know this is a 1, I know this is a 1. So this is really 3 minus 5 plus 3 minus 10. I can see right here, well, let's just do it. 3, yeah, anyway. So I'm going to go 3 minus 5 plus 3 minus 10. If you want to put those ones in there, that's fine. I know that it's not going to change anything, so I'm not going to do it. So I get a negative 9. That's always going to be true. So listen. If you do long division with x minus 1 and your remainder is a negative 9, if I set x minus 1 equal to 0, I get a 1. When I plug that 1 into the top, what I get is always going to be the remainder. Those will always be the same. Okay? Okay, let's do this. Use the remainder theorem to see if this is a factor. Okay, everybody go. I'm going to do it the quick way. If you set x plus 3 equal to 0, you get x equals negative 3. Now I'm going to take that negative 3 and I'm going to plug it in. So negative 4 times negative 3 to the third plus 5 times negative 3 squared plus 8. So I took my x plus 3, set it equal to 0, and whatever I get, I'm plugging that in. Okay? So everybody go negative 4 parenthesis, negative 3, close it, x to the, or pardon me, raise it to the third, plus 5, parenthesis, negative 3, close it, x squared, plus 8, hit enter, and I get 161. Okay? If that number is a 0, then this is what you know. When you factor this guy up right here, when you factor this times this times this, and you get it all factored, if you get a 0, then you know that this x plus 3 would be one of those 3 factors. But when I plug it in, I don't get a 0. So would x plus 3 be one of the factors? No, because my remainder is not 0. Okay? Guys, look. See this question B right here? Look at this. Do I know how to factor that? It's going to be tough. So instead of sitting and trying to factor it, I can start factoring by setting the x plus 2 equal to 0 and plugging it in and see if it works out. So set x plus 2 equal to 0 and you get x equals negative 2. Now plug that in. So 3 times negative 2 to the third plus 6 times negative 2 to the second plus 15 times negative 2 minus 30. Now let's put that in. So go 3 parenthesis negative 2, close it, raise it to the third, plus 6 parenthesis negative 2, close it, x squared, minus 15 parenthesis negative 2, close it, minus 30, hit enter, and I get a 0. So if I get a 0, then this is a factor. So the answer would be yes. What that means is this. I really need you to understand what that means. This guy is a monster to factor. But I know that if I factored it into 3 things, and I'm saying 3 things because that's a third right there, okay? This is a third. I know one of those 3 factors has got to be x plus 2. Because when I put in a negative 2, I got a 0 into that. Who says I'm with you? Raise your hand. Let me see. Okay, great. Now we're going to do synthetic division. No more long division. So this is a good thing for you. It's much easier. Okay? 2, 3. Everybody write down 3x to the third plus 6x to the second minus 15x minus 30 divided by x plus 2. That's exactly what we just did in the problem before. Okay? Watch what you do very slowly. Synthetic division is awesome. It's 5 times quicker than long division, and you're going to get it right way more often with synthetic, but it's a little tricky to try to remember how to do it. So everybody watch. Take that x plus 2, set it equal to 0. That's what number you put right there. Okay? Now, look at these coefficients. First of all, you have a third, a second, a first, and a constant, so we're good. Then you write down the coefficients, 3, and then 6, and then negative 15, and negative 30. Who says I'm following you? Raise your hand. Great. See this first number right here, the 3? Just bring that right down. And then you take the 3, and you multiply it by what's right there. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And then 6 subtract 6 is 0. Do it again. 0 times negative 2 is negative 2. And negative 15 and a negative 2 is a negative, ooh. Oh yeah. I'm like, it didn't work out. I'm supposed to be getting a 0. It is a 0, thank you. Negative 2 times 0 is a 0. Negative 15 and 0 is a negative 15. A negative 15 times a negative 2 is a positive 30, and I have no remainder. So since I have no remainder, then I know that x plus 2 must be a factor, which also means x equals negative 2 must be a solution. That's super important that you understand that. Okay? Okay, here we go. Is this a factor? Find all the real zeros. Okay? So, guys, everybody stop for just a second. See this x to the fourth right there? That means I'm going to have 4 answers. So everybody go x equals blank, 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 blank. Do you really have to do that? Nope, but we're doing it on this one just to show that we're going to have 4. Okay? Is it a factor? Everybody watch. Take the plus 2, set it equal to 0, you get a negative 2. Now, this one's tricky. You have to be careful. You are missing an x to the third. So you have to fill in a 0 on the x to the third. So look, you have a 1x to the fourth. You have a 0x to the third. You have a negative 7x to the second. And you have a negative 6x. And you need a constant, which is going to be a 0. Draw your line. Nice and slowly. 1 comes straight down. 1 times negative 2 is a negative 2. 0 and negative 2 gives me a negative 2. A negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4. A negative 7 and a positive 4 is a negative 3. A negative 3 times a negative 2 is a positive 6. A negative 6 and a positive 6 is a 0. 0 times negative 2 is a 0. No remainder. This is a factor. So is it a factor? Yes, it is. Find all of the real zeros. Okay? Look. If x plus 2 is a factor, let's write this down. X plus 2 is a factor, then that means x equals what is a solution? Can you tell me, guys? Negative 2. So I've got one of my solutions. Okay? Now this part is just a little bit tough, so I want you to watch this closely. Okay? Do you see how this exponent right here is a 4? Okay? How many times did I do the process of synthetic division? Once. So 4 subtract 1 is 3. So this guy is an x to the third. So I have a 1x to the third minus 2x to the second minus 3x. My constant is a 0, and so I don't need to write that down. They want the rest of the zeros. They want the rest of the solutions. So to find the rest of the solutions, I'm going to set that equal to 0 and solve it. What do I do? Somebody tell me. Take out an x. Awesome. When you take out an x, you're left with x to the second minus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Now I'm going to keep factoring. So the x to the second goes to an x and an x. The 3 is going to split to a 3 and a 1. Signs are different. Biggest is a negative. Looks like that. So now this, set them each equal to 0. So I get x equals 0, negative 1, and positive 3. So I'm going to add them over here. 0, negative 1, positive 3. Those are my answers, and I'm done. Okay, everybody stop for just a second. The process of long division or synthetic division, what it allows us to do is to factor something that is very difficult to factor. We can find one, and then we can keep going, do the synthetic division, and keep factoring and finding all my solutions. Let me tell you another thing. Your midterm's going to take you an hour and a half to take. That's how long you have to take it. When you're and you're going to study so hard for it. You guys, look at that schedule I gave you, okay? When you're done, every problem that you do that is checkable, you want to check it. How could I check this answer? I could check this answer in less than 1 minute, and I could walk away from this problem and say, I nailed it. I know I did. I had to have gotten it right. How could you check this answer? Tell me. Take those numbers and do what with them? Do the membar thing, right? Store membar. And what do I do with them? Where do I put them? In here. And what should I get? A 0 on every single one. Yeah? And I check my answer. There's no way it's wrong. If I plug them in and I get a 0, it's a solution. Who says I gotcha? Okay, good. Those are the zeros. What if they ask you to list all of the factors? The factors, the 0 would be an x. The x minus 2 gives you an x plus 2. The x equals negative 1 gives you x plus 1. X equals 3 gives you x minus 3. So that is the fully factored form If they tell you to list the factors, you don't have to put the y equals, but that's how you factor that. So the synthetic division helped us to factor something that was really yucky to factor. Okay? Okay, here goes question 5. Show that these are factors, and then find all of the remaining factors. Okay? How do I show that x minus 2 is a factor? Somebody tell me. You could set it equal and plug it in. Yes. I don't want you to do that. What's another way? Synthetic division. And what will happen when I do synthetic? No remainder, right? Everybody said x plus 2 equal to 0 and you get a 2. Look at your exponents. 4, 3, 2, 1, constant, I'm good. So I'm going to go 2, 7, negative 4, negative 27, negative 18. Everybody stop right here. If someone said to you, question on your midterm, factor that, would that be horrible?
Yes.
Horrible. But we're going to factor it in a much easier way. Okay? Okay, draw a line underneath all that stuff. The 2 comes straight down. 2 times 2 is 4. 7 plus 4 is 11. 11 times 2 is 22. 22 subtract 4 is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. Negative 27 and a positive 36 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. I have no remainder. So I've just proven that x minus 2 is a factor. Okay? Now I have to prove that x plus 3 is a factor. I'm not going to start over. I'm going to do something that's called stacking when you do synthetic. So I'm going to set x plus 3 equal to 0, and I get a minus 3, and it's going to go right there. And I better get another remainder of 0. So the 2 comes right down. 2 times negative 3 is a negative 6. 11 subtract 6 is 5. 5 times negative 3 is a negative 15. 18 minus 15 is 3. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. No remainder. I just showed it. Now they want all the remaining factors. Everybody watch. My biggest exponent is a 4. How many times did I just do synthetic division? Twice. So this guy is a 4 minus 2, which is an x squared. So I have a 2x to the second, a plus 5x, and a plus 3. They're not asking for zeros. They're not asking for solutions. If they were asking for solutions, I would set it equal to 0. They're not asking for solutions, they're asking for factors. So I'm just going to factor it. So this is going to go to a 2x and a plain x. It's going to factor to a 3 and a 1, and it goes like that. Okay? So list all of the remaining factors. Those are the 2 remaining factors. Okay? It's kind of weird to say leave answers in factored form. So if they asked you for all of the zeros on this question, this right here would give you a negative 3 over 2, and this right here would give me a negative 1. But those are not my only zeros. Is that it?
No.
What are my other zeros? Those 2 that I did synthetic division with, which are 2 and negative 3. Okay? If they did ask you for zeros, that would be the solution. Yes, honey?
Do you have to add in the x minus 2 and x plus 3 along with your factors?
Okay, so the reason the answer is no is because they're saying finding the remaining factors. But if they said give me the full factorization, then the full factorization would be x minus 2 times x plus 3 times 2x plus 3 times x plus 1, and that would be the full thing. You okay, sweetie? Okay, everybody good? Okay, here we go. Now, this is what it used to look like until this semester. They've changed how they're going to ask you. How are you going to know how they're going to ask you, or how do we think they're going to ask you? You look at that review I gave you that you said important on the top. This is how they're going to ask you. They used to do it like this. I don't think they're going to do it like that anymore. Okay? Okay, here we go. Constant. Everybody write down the word constant. In that equation on the right-hand side, the constant is the number that has no variables with it. That would be a 3, okay? And then the factors of the constant are the numbers that go into 3. So what goes into 3? 1 and 3, okay? Then I want you to write down the word leading coefficient. Here's how you find the leading coefficient. Find the biggest exponent, which is a 3. Look at the number in front of it. That would be a 2. So that's your leading coefficient. Okay? And then we're going to have to find the factors of the leading coefficient. What numbers go into 2? 1 and 2. So now look at this formula. Before graphing calculators, if you guys were asked to find zeros, which I think this is probably how you did it in your last classes, you graphed it, you found a nice place where it hit the x-axis, and then you started doing synthetic with that number. Who says, yep, I remember that. Okay, but now we don't have a graphing calculator. So how are we going to get started if we can't look, right? Look what you do. Write down the factors of the constant, 1 and 3. Put them over the factors of the leading coefficient, 1 and 2. Now, that's not your answer. Look what you do. The 1 is going to be over the 1, and it's also going to be over the 2. So, and it could be plus or minus. So everybody go plus or minus, and then go 1 over 1, that's a 1. 1 over 2, 1/2. Now do the 3. The 3 has to be over the 1, and then it has to be over the 2. So 3 over 1 is a 3. 3 over 2 is 3 over 2. This is a true story. A long time ago, 10 years ago, I taught pre-calculus. And in pre-calculus, that's how we wrote our answers, and we said it was acceptable. So that's how I did it in 1050, and every single one of my students lost 1 point on this problem. And I do think this will be on the midterm, by the way. What do you think they didn't like about that? Go ahead. Yeah, the plus or minus is applied to everything. So please put parentheses around it. Okay, so this is what I need you to understand. I just listed 8 possible zeros. 1, -1, 1/2, -1/2, 3, -3, 3/2, -3/2. Everybody grab your calculator. I got to find one that works. How am I going to find one that works? I'm going to store it in. I'm going to plug it into the equation. And what am I looking for? A 0. Okay, everybody do this with me. 1, store, enter. Then go 2, membar, enter, raise it to the 3rd. Plus 3, membar, enter, x squared. Minus 8, membar, enter, plus 3, enter, and the -1 worked. Okay, so, or that was a 1, right? Was that a 1?
Yes.
So everybody go, x equals 1. I know I'm going to have 3 solutions, and I just found one of them. Okay, how did I do that? I stored in the 1, I plugged it in, and I got a 0. Okay, let's do synthetic division. Everybody put a 1 right there. Now, look, we have a 3, we have a 2, we have a 1, we have a constant, we're good. Everybody go 2, 3, -8, 3, draw my line. Everybody freeze, this is big. Bless you. If x equals 1 is really a solution, if x minus 1 is really a factor, then when I do synthetic division right now, what's going to happen? No remainder. If I do this and I get a remainder, I did something wrong. Okay, here we go. 2 comes right down. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. -8 plus 5 is -3. 1 times -3 is a -3. Cross it out. You guys, it's so awesome that you're not supposed to have a remainder, because I know I'm like halfway through the problem, and right there I was just told you're doing this right because I got no remainder, so I'm feeling good. Okay, this is a 3, so this guy is a 2. So everybody write 2x to the second plus 5x minus 3. Now they're looking for zeros. If they're looking for zeros, you have to set it equal to 0. They're looking for solutions, okay? Now I'm going to factor this, so this goes to a 2x and a plain x. The 3 is going to go to a 3 and a 1, like that. The signs are different. The biggest is a positive. It's going to look like that. So this gives me a solution of 1/2. This gives me a solution of -3, and they're all rational. So I'm going to stick the 1 with it. Those are all going to be in the rational section. The other is going to be none. What would be correct to put down in the other? If you have an answer that ends with the square root, if you have an answer that ends up being an I, those are considered other zeros. Now, let me tell you how I think they're going to change it. Actually, how much time do we have? Can somebody tell me that? How long? 20. Okay. Grab the papers that I asked you that I gave you, and I want you to look at the very important one. Okay, sorry, I'm helping myself. Choose your papers. Look at the very important one. And then I want you to scan through, and I want you to find this. If somebody finds it, call her. Okay, number 7. Given one root, x equals -1, of this polynomial, find all of the remaining roots and simplify completely. That means like reduce them and stuff. So you would do synthetic division with the -1, take what you're left with, but you'll get an x squared and factor that. They're not going to separate them, I don't think, between rational and other. Okay, let's keep looking. So we're looking at how we think they're going to ask us this question. Because I'm telling you, it's new. They changed it on me again. Okay, look at 18. Find all of the possible rational zeros, or those are the possible zeros. Find one. So you just have to plug all those in. Okay. Look at number 20. Give me a list of all the possibles. So they're asking you again. That's all I see. Okay. So I don't think they're going to separate it between rational and other. They used to forever. And now I think on you guys they're changing. Okay, here we go. Question A. Find a list of all the possible zeros. Okay, everybody do a fraction. Look at the constant. It's right there. It's a 4. The factors of the constant go on the top. What goes into 4? 1, 2, 4. The leading coefficient is a 2. What are the factors of 2? 1 and 2. You can't write it like that. You have to do 1 over 1, then 1 over 2. Then 2 over 1, then 2 over 2. Then 4 over 1, and then 4 over 2. Okay? 1 over 1 is 1. 1 over 2 is 1/2. 2 over 1 is 2. 2 over 2 is a 1, but I already wrote that down. 4 over 1 is a 4. 4 over 2 is a 2, but I already wrote that down. So I'm going to put parentheses around it. I'm going to put a plus or minus in front of it, and those are my rational zeros. Okay? Okay, I'm going to say something. I need to look at a rubric, but I remember they did something like this. Write this down. Factors of constant. And then they listed them. 1, 2, 4. Factors of leading coefficient. And then they wrote it as 1, 2. And then plus all the other stuff I have on there. I think that's how they wrote it. Would you remind me to look it up later? But I know that they wrote something up that I've never had my students do, and my students almost missed it. And I was like, oh, they have it right there. So anyway, let's just remember that. Remind me and we'll look it up. Okay? Okay, grab your calculator. Let's start plugging things in. Okay? Everybody go 1, store, enter. Plug it into that equation. 2, membar, enter, raise it to the third. plus membar enter x squared minus 9 membar enter plus 4 enter. It did not work. What I like to do is just off on the side, and I'm going to erase it in a minute, is I just keep track of what I've tested. So a 1 didn't work. Now I'm going to go -1 store enter up up enter, and a -1 did not work. How do I know a -1 didn't work when I did that right now? I didn't get a 0. Good. I'm going to skip over the 1/2 because I'm not loving that, right? Let's do the 2. 2 store enter up up enter, and the 2 does not work. Now I'm going to do -2 store enter up up enter. The -2 does not work. Now I'm going to try a 4 store enter up up enter. The 4 does not work. -4 store enter up up enter, and the -4 does not work. Now I have to deal with the fractions. So I'm going to go +1/2. So I'm going to go 0.5 store enter up up enter, and it works. So now I have to deal with fractions. And they love you to have to do synthetic with fractions, I'm just telling you. Okay, so a rational 0 would be x equals 1/2. Like I said, on your midterm, I don't think they're going to have you differentiate between rational and other. On the quiz, you might have to. So we're going to just keep separating them. Okay, let's do synthetic with a 1/2. You have a 3, a 2, a 1, a constant, you're good to go. So 2, 1, -9, 4. Draw your line. The 2 comes straight down. You guys, please don't be afraid of multiplying by a 1/2. It's the same thing as dividing by, tell me, 2. So you just go 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. -8 and a -9 and a +1 is a -8. -8 divided by 2 is -4. I'm good to go. Okay, this is a third. I did synthetic 1 time. So this guy's going to be a what, everybody? Squared. So this is 2x to the second plus 2x minus 8. I'm looking for zeros, so I have to set it equal to 0. Okay, now you should be able to factor that. And if it doesn't factor, then what are we going to do? Let's deal with that in a second, okay? What would you do right here? Everybody tell me. Take out a 2. When you take out a 2, you're left with x to the second plus x minus 4 equals 0. Everybody stop. Does this guy right here factor? Talk to me. No. So that's got to be an other 0. So right here, everybody go x to the second plus x minus 4 equals 0. So the answer to part B is x equals 1/2. Make sure you highlight that or box it. So you say, yeah, here's my answer, but I'm still not done because I'm supposed to have 3 zeros, and right now I only have 1. Somebody tell me what to do. Quadratic formula. Yep. If you don't know the quadratic formula, you're going to miss everything. Okay? X equals -b. That's -1. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. That's 1 squared, which is 1. Minus 4 times a, which is 1. I'm not going to put times 1. I'm not going to write it down. It doesn't change anything. Times c, which is a -4, all over 2 times 1, which is a 2. 2 times a, which is a 2. Now, everybody listen to this. See this right here? So many people mess up on that. So I want you to grab your calculator and put that in your calculator, please. Like so many people mess up on it. So go 1 minus 4 parentheses -4, close it, enter, and I got 17. So now I have x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 17 all over 2. Is there anything I can do to that to simplify it? Why not? What are you looking at and going, ain't happening? What is it? The 17. The 17 doesn't have any pairs, right? What if, so that's it. You're done. You've got 2 answers right there. In part C, you've got 1 answer right there. Okay? Now, tell me what time the bell rings. 27? 27? Okay, so I have like 7 more minutes. Show me how much I've got to do. Okay. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to that and I'm going to show you how to check it, but I'm not going to do it now because I've got to make sure I get through this first. Okay? Okay, here we go. Question 8. Find all the possibles. What goes into 16? Let's write it the way I think they want me to, or how they want you to. So I want you to go factors of constant. Okay? And that would be 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. I think that's it. And then factors of leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is a 1, so the factors of 1 are 1. You put the constant factors over the leading coefficient factors. So that's 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16, all over 1. All over 1 doesn't change it. Close it off, put a plus or minus, and that's it. Okay, those are your possibles. Now, I think, let me hurry and try to find this. I should grab a calculator. Okay, whatever one I just did worked. I forgot what one I did. 1 works, okay? Everybody write x equals 1. How do you check if it works? Tell me so I make sure you know. Plug it in and get a what?
0.
Get a 0. Okay, everybody put a 1 right here. Okay? Now, look how long this is. You have a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1, a constant. We're good. So everybody go 1, -5, 12, -24, 32, and -16. Draw your line. 1 comes down. 1 times 1 is 1. -5 plus 1 is -4. Times 1 is -4. 12 subtract 4 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. -24 plus 8 is -16. Times 1 is -16. 32 minus 16 is 16. 1 times 16 is 16. No remainder, and we're good. Okay? I know I have a rational 0 at x equals 1. You guys, this fifth goes to a fourth. Just don't write this down, but look. X to the fourth minus 4x to the third plus 8x to the second minus 16x plus 16 equals 0. Do I know how to factor that? No, I got to keep going. I got to find more of those guys that work so I can get it down to at least a third. Okay, an x to the third I think I might be able to deal with, but a fourth, no way. Okay, so let me see if I remember which other one works. A 2 works. Okay, so everybody put a 2. Now don't start back over, you've got to stack it. Does it matter if you start with a 1 or if you start with a 2? It doesn't matter, it's going to be the same. Everybody put a 2. 1 comes down. 1 times 2 is 2. -4 plus 2 is a -2. A -2 times 2 is a -4. 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 times 2 is an 8. A -16 and 8 is a -8. A -8 times 2 is a -16, and I'm good to go. Okay, I'm going to show you a trick. This is confusing, but it's a big trick. Okay? Watch. This is a fifth. I did synthetic division twice. 5 subtract 2 tells me 3. So this guy's an x to the third. So this would be, you don't have to write this down yet, x to the third minus 2x a second plus 4x minus 8. I'm trying to solve it. The question is, do I know how to factor that? Okay? Watch the trick. It's big. Okay? Do you see how 1 and -2 are smaller than 4 and -8? Okay? Look at the big guys. 4 and -8. Could I take something out of both 4 and -8, the same thing, to turn the 4 into a 1 and to turn the -8 into a -2? Yes or no? Yes, I could. Don't write this down, but just look. If I took out a 4, the 4 would be a 1, the -8 would be a -2. That trick, since it works, tells me I know how to factor this thing. Okay? So now, write that down. x to the third minus 2x to the second plus 4x minus 8. There's lots of little tricky ways to factor this. I'm just going to show you the easiest way. Just guess and check. Look, the x to the third is going to split to an x to the second and an x to the first. It's got to. Okay? Now everybody watch. This is also tricky. I need a negative 2x squared. Whatever goes here is going to be multiplied by that x squared when I do O on FOIL. So if I want a negative 2x squared, everybody tell me what I have to put right here. What do I have to put? Negative 2. Okay? Because a negative 2 times x squared is a negative 2x squared. Whatever goes here is going to be multiplied by the x. And I need a 4x. So everybody tell me what goes there. Plus 4. Yep. And 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So I know it's totally working. Okay? Now, this x minus 2 gives me a 2, but I already have that written down right there. So we're good to go. Okay? What about this x squared minus 4? That's going to be an other 0, right? Everybody go x squared plus 4 equals 0, and then solve it. 4 comes over, x squared equals negative 4. Square root it, x equals, what would come right after the equals? Tell me. Plus or minus. Tell me what the square root of a negative 4 is. 2i. Yep, those are your others. These are your rational. Sorry, I keep scribbling. These are your rational, and you're done. Okay? Now, we have a problem. We have a problem. The problem is, it's an x to the 5th, which means I'm supposed to have 5 answers, and I only have 4 answers. What did I do wrong? Okay, you're so smart. You're so smart. She's so smart. It's crazy. You're all so smart. She said you have 2 x minus 2's. Here's how you know you have 2 of them. This guy gives us 1 x minus 2 factor. This guy gives us another x minus 2 factor. So this 2 is a solution twice. So I'm going to say multiplicity 2. Do you really have to write that down? No. If I were graphing it, then when it hit the 2, would it cross through or would it bounce? It would bounce because it's a solution twice. Who says gotcha? Okay, good. Now, let me just tell you. These 3 things right here, I'm just going to tell you, they're not on your quiz. But they could be on your final. Okay? But you know what we're going to do? I'm going to stop, and I'm going to teach them not next time, but the time after that. Because you need to know this, but you don't need to know it for the quiz. Okay? So one thing I do want to do is I want to do this. This is important to me. Go back to question 7. You guys, when you take this quiz, when you take this midterm, you want to check every possible thing you can check. See this answer right here? I want to check it with you, okay? Grab your calculator. If you're done with your quiz, if you're done with your midterm and you have 20 more minutes, I want you to know how to check things, okay? Put parentheses around the top, okay? Do this with me. Parenthesis, negative 1 plus second x squared, 17, close the radical, close the top. Then you go divide 2. Then I want you to hit store, enter. Then I want you to put it into that original equation. So go 2, mem bar, enter, raise it to the third, plus mem bar, enter, x squared, minus 9, mem bar, enter, plus 4, enter, bam. Got it. How do I know I got it? What did I get? A 0. Do this. Hit up, up. Now I'm back on top of that root. Go to the right. Right on top of that plus, make it a negative. Then hit store, enter. Oh, I got an error. I think maybe I need it to be at the end. store, enter. Now it worked. Then hit up until you're on top of that equation again, hit enter, bam. Just check the second one. Who says gotcha? Let's see. Okay. What time does it ring? 27? Okay, we're just going to quit. Questions? I know that was fast and I'm so sorry. Is this going to be on the quiz?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The last three will not. Everything else is. Yes, sir.
The part that we skipped with the lesson is that you have on homework.
That's a very good point. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep doing this right now. When you guys go to lunch, it's going to take me 4 more minutes. You're going to log on to Canvas, finish watching it, and do it on your homework. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Anybody? That was your question? Okay. I'm going to keep talking right now. Pay attention. Don't pay attention. I don't care. I just don't want a big pause in my video. Okay? Show that this has a real 0 between 2 and 3. Everybody just kind of freeze and shh. Okay? Look right here. If you had x equals 2 and x equals 3, if the 2, when you plugged it in, gave you a negative y value, bye. If you want to stay, stay. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't, okay? Just exit quietly, okay? And if the 3 gave me a positive, then I know between those two, it would have to cross through and hit the x-axis, which would mean I would have a 0, okay? So all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do a table of values. I'm going to use an x value of 2 and an x value of 3, and I'm going to plug it into there. Okay, so I'm going to go to store, enter. Then I'm going to go membar, enter, raise it to the third. Minus 2, membar, enter, minus 5, hit enter, and I get a negative 1. Can you come after school and talk to me? Let me record this, okay? Negative 1. Then put in a 3. 3, store, enter, up, enter, and I get a 16. If there's a sign change between those two, you know it has to have a real 0, okay? So, show that. I pretty much just did. So, f of 2 is a negative 1, and f of 3 is equal to 16, okay? I'm going to say the polynomial must cross the x-axis between x equals 2 and x equals 3. Okay? Okay, question 10. Question 10 looks terrible, but it's really not terrible. Okay? So here's your equation, and this is a factor. You guys, if x plus 1 is a factor, then x equals negative 1 is a solution. Okay? And if x equals negative 1 is a solution, that means when I do synthetic division, I better get a 0. So everybody put a negative 1 right there. What's in front of the x to the third? A 1. What's in front of the x? Squared, a negative k. What's in front of the x? A 2k. What's the constant? Negative 1. Draw your line. 1 comes right down. 1 times negative 1 is a negative 1. Now this is weird because you can't combine a negative k and a negative 1. That's okay. Just write it as negative k minus 1. Multiplied by negative 1, change the signs, k plus 1. 3k plus 1, or 2k plus 1k is 3k plus 1. Multiplied by negative 1, change the signs, negative 3k minus 1. Add those things together, you get negative 3k minus 2. Negative 3k minus 2 is your remainder. But if this is really a factor, then your remainder is supposed to be 0. So just take the negative 3k minus 2, set it equal to 0, and solve it. So you get negative 3k equals 2, divide by negative 3, and you get k equals negative 2/3, and you got it. Okay, let's do the next one, and then we're done. Find k so that when you divide, your remainder is 3. Take x plus 1, set it equal to 0, you get a 1. I have a 3, a 2, a 1, and a constant, so I'm good. So I have a 2x to the third, a negative 3k, x squared, a kx, and a minus 2. Draw your line. The 2 comes down. 1 times 2 is 2. A negative 3k and a positive 2 is a negative 3k plus 2. Times 1 is still negative 3k plus 2. 1k minus 3k is a negative 2k plus 2. Multiplied by 1 is a negative 2k plus 2. Combine those, the 2's cancel, and you get a negative 2k. That's your remainder, but the remainder is supposed to be 3. So take your remainder, set it equal to 3, and divide, and you get k equals negative 3/2. That's it.